All right, welcome to part D. This is a really important one because it's kind of taking what we just did in the first parts and then going over what we've been doing in class. And there have been a lot of confusion with decimals in class. I'm hoping that you're able to do the problems on the back of this page with no problem. So check your answers. If you had any of them wrong or you just want to go over the state test questions on the back, stick around. 35 hundredths for number 1. 78 hundredths for number 2. A is negative 5 tenths. B is 5 hundredths. C is negative 85 hundredths. D is 15 hundredths. And finally, your secret word is a poop emoji. So have fun drawing that. But please stick around if any of that was confusing. Let's go over this. Alright, so let's solve this one. But hopefully you're no longer thinking in your head 0.2 and 0.15. I really hope you see this guy and you say, oh, that's 2 tenths. And this is 15 hundredths. So, okay, 2 tenths. 2 tenths is the same as 2 dimes, which is 20 cents or 20 hundredths. So I'm going to start by shading in a tenth and another tenth, which really is the same as 20 hundredths, or 20 hundredths. On to the 15 hundredths. That's, as a fraction, is like this. And so now I just need to shade in 15 of these. So there's 10 of them. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. In total, with the fractions, I'd end up with 35 hundredths. And the same would be true for the decimals. We'd end up with a sum of 35 hundredths. Alright, and number 2, this is the one where so many people on their classworks this week were making mistakes, and the common mistake most likely would have been 51, like that, 51 hundredths. I would love for you to explain why you think someone might make that mistake, or why you used to make that mistake and why you're not going to anymore. So let's get rid of that and let's solve this one using the grid. So 48 hundredths, 10, 20, 30, 40, 48 right there. And then this is 3 tenths. So a couple ways to think about it. 48 hundredths is right here. 3 tenths we know is equivalent to 30 hundredths, because 3 dimes is 30 pennies, or because 30 hundredths would fit inside 3 tenths. So really what we're doing is we're solving this problem. Alright, so I could shade in 30, which would look something like this. And if you were to count up all these little squares, you would have a total of 78. And that's why the answer is 78 hundredths, which as a decimal, we write like this, 78 hundredths. So why do you think someone might end up getting this answer? Please explain it over here. Alright, on to the 7th grade state test level problems. This very first one says 4 tenths minus 9 tenths. With these problems, you could very easily just rewrite them as fractions and then solve that instead. It's sort of up to you. But alright, I'm going to set up an open number line. I know that 0 is going to be somewhere over here, and we're starting at 4 tenths, so that's up here. Subtraction tells me that this is going down, and we're going to go down a total of 9 tenths. So to get to 0, I'd end up going down 4 tenths. And then if I've gone down 4 tenths, and I want to go down a total of 9 tenths, that would mean I have 5 tenths left over, and 0 going down 5 tenths would get us to negative 5 tenths. So that's what this answer is. And with fractions, it would have been similar, and your final answer would have looked like negative 5 tenths or negative 1/2. most of the grade was fine with problems like A, and most of the grade was not fine with problems that looked like B. So let's see how you did with this one after this packet and after this past week of working so hard on your math. So as fractions, this is 25 hundredths and it's negative, so negative 25 hundredths. And this is 3/10. And a couple ways to think about this. Right away, you could have said, well, 3/10, that's 3 dimes, that's 30 hundredths. You could have proved it off to the side like this. But, okay, so, oh yeah, and one other thing. Simply adding this 0 here, hopefully by now makes sense, because all we did was rewrite 3/10 as 30 hundredths, which we know are equivalent. So now I'm going to set this up. I like kind of putting 0 just so I know where it is. We're starting below 0 at negative 25 hundredths. I'm going to do this one as a fraction. So we start at negative 25 hundredths. Then I know we're going to make it up to 0 because we're adding, and we're adding 30 hundredths, which is more. So first I'm just going to add 25 hundredths. And then if I did that, because I'm going up a total of 30, I know I would have 5 hundredths left over. And my answer would be 5 hundredths. And be really careful. I'm sure some of you might have thought just to put an answer of 0.5 because you weren't thinking of place value, but our answer should be 5 hundredths, which looks like this. It's also the same as 5 cents, which you've probably seen before written like this. So that would be acceptable, or you could have written it like this as a fraction. Alright, questions C and D are given as half fraction, half decimal, so we're going to have to kind of convert between the two to make the problem easier. I'm going to solve C by changing everything to a decimal. You could have also done it as a fraction, but I'm going to rewrite 7/10 as 7/10 with the 7 in the tenths place. Then we have negative 15 hundredths minus 7/10. A very common mistake on this problem would probably be to just combine those together and think it was 22 hundredths. But again, 7/10 is the same as 70 hundredths. So I'm going to write it like this, and this will kind of help me keep track because now they're both written as hundredths. So, okay, got 0. We're starting below 0 at negative 15 hundredths. Subtraction means that we're going to go down. So we're actually going away from 0. We're going down past it. So in a way, the numbers are going to be they're going to look like they're going up, even though we're dropping further and further down. So I'm going to do it all in one jump. We're going down 70 hundredths. We were at 15 hundredths. So if I were to add those together, I would get 85 hundredths. And since we're below 0, I know that it's negative 85 hundredths, and that would be the answer to this question, which you could have also written as negative 85 hundredths. Alright, last one. I think for this one I'll solve it in 2 ways, just so you can see how the answers are related. So first, I'm going to start by changing both numbers into decimals. 1/4, well, 1/4 of $1 is 25 cents, or 25 hundredths. So I'm going to rewrite this as negative 25 hundredths plus 4/10. But I know that 4/10 is like 4 dimes, which is just 40 cents, or 40 hundredths. And now I have them both in hundredths and decimals. So now I can solve this problem. I got my reference point as 0, negative 25 hundredths underneath. Addition means we're going up. So I'm going to go up to 0 first, which is going to bring me up 25 hundredths, and that's going to leave me with 15 hundredths left over, which would give me an answer of 15 hundredths. Let's see. So I'm going to solve it now as fractions just to see if you did it that way. You can kind of make sure that you had it right. So if you rewrite this problem like this, negative 1/4 plus 4/10, if you want to keep working as fractions, you got to find a common denominator. And 4 doesn't go into 10 without giving us a decimal, which you could do, but that gets kind of weird. So instead, I'm going to use 20, because 20 is the least common multiple of 4 and 10. So I'm going to take 1/4, and I'm going to rewrite it as 20ths, and I see that there's a scale factor of 5, so I can rewrite this as negative 5 20ths. And then with 4/10, that one's easier to see. I could just multiply by 2 over 2, and that's going to give me plus 8 20ths. If I were to do that on an open number line, with 0 as my reference point, we're going to start below at negative 5 20ths. We're going up 8 20ths, so first I go up the 5. And then I have 3 20ths left over, and I get the answer of 3 20ths. And in class, I think in each of my classes, we actually talked about how 15 hundredths is equivalent to 3 20ths. And in case you forgot why that's true, well, 15 hundredths as a fraction, that's 15 hundredths. And 3 20ths are equivalent fractions, because if you multiply 20 by 5 and 3 by 5, you get 15 hundredths. So that's why these two were the two possible answers. Alright, and again, your secret word is a secret emoji. Give me your best poop drawing, and head over to the final video.